have an... Oh, thank you, Salam. Hope you're all doing fine. It seems like I see you guys almost every day, and I miss you sometimes. Okay, welcome aboard again to our another session, another very engaging panel discussion, hosting our very own Rodolfo and João. The reason, yes, the reason why I say our very own, because they are our very first witnesses of the beginning of this project. We had the honor of hosting them once, hosting them again in the beginning of Digi-Art training program with the Porto meetup. So we're so happy to have them once again in this panel discussion. I'm not going to be talking too much tonight. I'll pass the ball to our moderator of tonight. Utku is going to be navigating the whole session for us. Utku from Marquesas. I'll give my mic to him to first introduce himself and also give a few words about Marquesas, what he does at Marquesas. And yes, once again, thanks to you all for being here. And here, Utku, it's all yours.
Hey. Yeah, thank you, Atalay. It's such a nice group. And I know like you have a lot of fun in the first week too, and from the beginning of the program. And like I've been like seeing you like organizing this program like back, like a year ago, and like what you guys do in Portugal, and it was super exciting. And like after you seeing all the subjects that including the programs, I think is like really well created. And I'm so happy like you also invited us doing this session, and I think we're going to do another session on Saturday about sustainability and eco-conscious creation of digital arts. So a little bit about me, it's Utku. So I'm the co-founder of Marquesas that we founded 1.5 years ago, based in Istanbul. So Marquesas is kind of sense making and content and community hub for intersection of Web3 and impact and creative industries. So we founded Marquesas because all the conversation about blockchain, like the digital art, like NFTs and all this, or about like speculation and trading in Turkey. So we kind of like want to separate the word that is more than that. Like you can do a lot of things about with the technology of Web3 and blockchain. So actually Atalay will share like what's like our website and Instagram, and actually this year we're gonna do with really great partners in Web3 ecosystem in Europe. We're gonna do an event in Istanbul, international event called DPEC. It's coming from Decentralized Impact. So it's gonna be on November. Those who I'm seeing like some Turkish fellow here, if you are in Istanbul, you're interested, you can also join that program, which we're gonna have in November 15th this year. Okay, let's get back to the session. Why I'm excited about this session? Because I'm kind of like one of those I would say like, the normal guys who got into digital art after like learning about NFTs. So yeah, I mean, I admire like other work of, like digital artists back then, but I was never able to like, collect or like being engaged with the digital art in that way. So, so I was like a humble NFT collector starting from 2020 and kind of like engage with like how I'm like preserving this art, why do I own, like why what do I own when I get an NFT or like a digital art. So I actually dig in a bit on that, like how, like what's the multimedia art, like how they used to be preserved, the art about in digital realm. So I'm super excited to have you two guys to talk about this and learn more in detail. So first, actually, like I would like you guys to introduce yourself. We have Rodolfo, Oliveira, and João Bernardino. So actually, we didn't talk about it before, but let's see, like, what do you guys do? Like, I know you live in based in Porto, and you like Porto, but you are highly involved in art and like the digital side of art. So just give a quick introduction about yourselves.
Start, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Rodolfo. I work as Oficinas DK, and I've been working for a few years. I've been involved in micro-publishing and also printing. And since 2018, I started doing NFTs. I found out about NFTs and Ethereum blockchain, and I got involved in NFTs. And today I'll talk a bit about NFTs, but other interesting aspects that should be also considered by digital artists. So hope you enjoy it.
Great.
Hi, I'm João Bernardino. I'm a designer by formation. I somehow quit designing some 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm doing content, especially photography and video, but also I'm experimenting on AI since, I don't know, maybe 1 year from now. And yes, this is it.
Okay, great. So like we will start with Rodolfo, and like I think he's gonna describe like a lot of about authenticity, how when you own a digital art, like how come like they kind of like you have the digital art. And actually I get take the permission that if you have any questions during the presentation, just jump in right on the chat box, so we will just like direct these questions to Rodolfo. Okay, back to you.
Yes, thank you. I'll try to start my presentation now. Let me see if I can do this again. Give me just a second, please. Yeah. Just center this, please. Sorry, everyone. Here. Sorry, I'm actually pretty new to Zoom. I usually don't do video talks. So I hope you're seeing it all now. Yeah, cool. So let's begin with first things first. What's a blockchain? Oh wait, there's a small window here, sorry. What's a blockchain? Everybody's talking a lot about blockchain these days. There's blockchain this, for that. Most famous are like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and those are used mostly for money. Most people realize this, that blockchains are somehow related to finance or investments or money in general. But blockchains basically are like a database. It's instead of being having all the info stored in one or a few centralized servers, it's built in a way that all the information is distributed through a network of peers or nodes in this case. So the idea behind building a sort of database like this is to make it more resilient and censorship resistant, and all of that. That really is the core of the values behind Ethereum. I'll talk mostly about Ethereum because that's the blockchain I'm most familiarized with. I'm also working on Tesla's blockchain, but this is the blockchain I found out first, and the blockchain that develops smart contracts and all that thing that's very useful for artists. So the importance of having a decentralized database is that laws change, countries change, opinions change, and all of a sudden a service or a technology you're used to having for free on your cell phone becomes unavailable. This already happens to a lot of people in a lot of countries. We are part of a privileged few. We can still have talks over Zoom and discuss ideas and whatnot, but not all the countries in the world share the same benefits we do when it comes to how they can use the internet. So this is really the importance of building a decentralized blockchain. So this database, it works with little blocks. That's why it's called a blockchain, because these little blocks, they compile the information in a structured way that the database can store permanently. So every time you send a transaction or you mint an NFT or whatever, you do an important record that needs to be noticed on the blockchain, it's added to a block. Those blocks are sent to miners. Now they're not sent to miners anymore because the technology has changed, but it's beyond the point. I will not get too technical on this because we have to address other more important issues for artists and content creators. So the thing with this database is that you can't delete the records, and that's pretty cool. If you mess up, it stays there forever. If someone, an artist, a creator, uploads an image and attaches the digital certificate that we call NFTs to it, that info is written forever. So for artists and content creators, that's a good starting point to build. We can call it a catalog. We can call it like a record. That's what it is, a ledger of the works you have been doing, when they were made, that it's specifically the dates, and the authorship is attached to it. So if that artifact, that digital artifact, travels to another owner, we can keep track of this information. And this is really helpful and interesting, maybe more especially in cases of fraud or this kind of unauthorized usage of content. So it's a way to determine ownership, meaning that you can, and when I say you can, I mean everyone, because it's a public record, unlike other records where we store our info on services we use either with Microsoft or Google or whatever. This one is actually public and anyone can consult it. So I can check if I want, if João Bernardino was doing NFTs, I could check when did he create, if it was really him who created them, and so forth. This is the importance of what we call the chain of provenance. So why is this interesting for artists and creators? You know, these certificates, non-fungible tokens, that's what they're called, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, there are specific records for this decentralized database that can add extra info, nice metadata, like I'm saying in the slide, who created, when, where it points to, the image, the digital artifacts, what sort of, you can add dimensions, you can add whatever meta tag you can think of, you can pretty much, or at least in most smart contracts, you can add pretty much any metadata to your image. And this is interesting because you can register really, or make a really solid record of relevant info, either about the techniques or the mood or whatever you feel like it's important to share with your audience, or moreover, which is important, to keep a record, an undeletable record of this info. And NFTs, or artists in general, creators in general, the cases are not so obvious, but there have been important statements being made through the indelibility, sorry, or the inability to delete records on the blockchain. And you can release like medical papers, like has happened before the COVID spreads, or make political statements and whatnot, all sort of info that could or would get censored somehow. And this is where NFTs get interesting for creators and digital arts, for myself at least. This obviously, and I think by now everybody heard of it and realized that you can make money with NFTs. You can sell NFTs and get money in exchange, an electronic form of money, whether it's Ethereum or any other chain-based coin. And this may not sound much, meaning the potential to monetize your content, but the fact is that most of us unwillingly are giving our content to a wide audience, and the platforms are benefiting and monetarily from it, whether because they place ads or whether because they gain more content engagement or more viewers or whatever. So for me as an artist, this was a big deal when I started doing NFTs, the fact that I could actually produce a digital artifact, because this is what I'm talking, this is where I come from. It's not like you can't do physical art and make an NFT of it, but I'm talking from the viewpoint of a person who works with digital art. And from me, the possibility of selling a GIF or a JPEG or a 3D model in its native form as it was made, because there's a difference between making art with ink or making art with pixels. And pixels look better on screen. They look better on their pure digital form. So this NFTs, this technology behind NFTs and this ability to add metadata and point to images and whatnot really presented for me, and I think for everyone, as a really interesting opportunity to sell your work. I know that a lot of artists I talk to, sometimes they feel ashamed of talking about money, but money is an important aspect of anyone's life, and artists are no exception because they have to pay bills too. And there were a lot of controversies related to NFTs because NFTs were killing the planet, or NFTs were a scam and all of that. Gladly, we're over that narrative now, because people realize the usefulness, but also there were studies demonstrating that actually the power consumption of blockchains, high as it isn't as high as air conditioning, for example. And it's not even comparable to the energy spent in flying on airplanes and so forth, or gold mining or whatever, an amount of activity. So now that we're over this controversy of NFTs, I think, and now that the money hype has passed a bit, because in between 2021 and 22, there was a real craze going on, and everybody thought they could make easy money. So I think a lot of people and a lot of artists and content creators, they really didn't make the effort they could be making as digital artists or content creators, because they thought this would be an easy way to monetize their content. And it is an easy way, but it's not an instant way, and certainly depends on the quality of our work, most of all. That's usually for me, and I take the opportunity to give this advice to future artists and creatives out there. Sometimes people don't enjoy your work because you're not working hard enough. Sometimes people don't enjoy your work because they don't enjoy your work, and it's okay. It's okay. It's pretty okay to be rejected. It's pretty okay to not be consensual as an artist. I would even say it's actually good to not be consensual if you're a content creator or an artist. At least you're trying to do something else, which is nice. But returning to our presentation, I still have a few more slides. The main thing, and I mentioned this earlier, about chain of provenance. This means that once you set a record and anybody can consult it, you can establish this chain of provenance. Sorry for the redundancy, but it really means that it's easy to see who did what, when, and so forth. So I'll just skip this slide as a small example where you have a content and you attach metadata to it, and that's how you make an NFT. So what happens really is when you create an NFT, your image or your 3D model or your video or whatever, it will not be written on the blockchain, not in most cases anyway. There are a few exceptions, and they're called on-chain art, and they depend on different sorts of technologies to be rendered. But the kind of usage that most of us are doing is uploading digital content. This digital content gets uploaded elsewhere. What you're doing in the NFT is also saying where the image is uploaded. And this is really important. pulling back to what I was saying in the beginning, sometimes companies change their minds, sometimes countries change their law, and so forth. So it's important to consider where are you storing your digital content, whether you're doing NFTs or not. So this means our content is protected. It is not. NFTs were never meant to protect your content, not that way. Everybody can make a copy of it. You can actually find access to the high resolution file really simple, in really simple ways by just browsing the metadata on the NFT. So, but as I'm saying, this is not the point, because, and I want to say this, there's really not much of a point for me as an artist who shares his content on Twitter, on Instagram, and mints it on the blockchain. There's really no point for me in trying to make it hard for people to access my content or even download it to their desktops or cell phones. I'll be more than happy if people make a right-click save of one of my images to use as a cell phone desktop or paper or whatever. So this is beyond the point that that's in the slide, because, and this is related to the mindset which was mentioning about it as a collector. What do people own when they own NFTs? And really, they don't own much. They own a record on a database that says they have ownership on a piece of art. And this is very meta. This is very conceptual, because the JPEG in itself, one could argue that it always remains on my computer and I upload it to IPFS, which is making a clone and whatnot. But what you're owning this, it's the right to brag. As stupid as it may sound, it's a bragging right. It's like when you buy traditional art from a gallery and they give you this little paper that says that this said artist did this back then and the technique he used and whatnot. And this little paper is what makes the painting real. You know, you understand what I'm saying here, I hope. And it's the same way that the NFT make it real, but the work is something else. And this means not only you have bragging rights, you also have selling rights, you also have landing rights and whatnot. You have actual sort of conceptual, sure, but you have actual property over this digital artifact. So it's beyond the point for me. Again, it's important to know, because there are different opinions on this matter. But for me, it's pointless if people can actually make a copy of my work, because they will have a copy of my work, not the original work, which is linked to an NFT and the digital certificate, the little paper that the gallery gives you saying he made this.
Is it? Can I just like? Sure. It is really important point, I think, that because all the conversation around NFTs, like verification and certification of NFTs, like what do you own, you know, really lies around these subjects, like your last two slides. One is like, so I have the report on blockchain saying that I own this NFT, but in metadata, most of them, it was a huge issue in the, you know, the hype of NFTs, that most of the metadata actually stored in like really centralized
Google locations and whatnot, and Amazon, you know, mostly.
So then you actually have a report on the blockchain. I'm like
it's like
deep on this, but then when you go, like, if this server, you know, deleted, or
it's like you bought a really nice piece of art, but it was made with materials that may not last that many years, you know. You really have to be worried about conservation when it comes to those pieces that are stored on centralized servers. And this is
also I really like this comparison with the traditional art and digital art, that, you know, it was such a good analogy, actually. Like, you bought that art that, like, with really bad material and just like it's kind of rotten. And also, like, for the authentication, you know, like if you buy art from gallery, like a painting, you just need to ask for provenance and the records and the certification as well. So it's same with the digital art, right? So
it's the same with a different type of database and digitally available to everyone on the world. That's the beauty of it. It's actually public and open, unlike the records of galleries or auction houses, which are very, very opaque. You know, and even if it doesn't come to that, the possibility of having accountability is also important. Even if it doesn't come to that, the possibility of having a legal claim for intellectual property or whatever, because you know you have a record. There's these records that stated some set of actions. So, and this is what we're talking about, the centralized servers. And I mentioned this earlier, and I'll reinforce it now. It's really important as a digital artist to start thinking on ways to store your content, because we do it automatically most of the times. We just share images or whatever, and they end up somewhere. But somewhere is not enough to ensure they'll be there in 100 years. Imagining that we still have internet and electricity and whatnot, we have to consider more permanent solutions. The ones I know, I mentioned them on this slide. It's the IPFS, the Interplanetary File Service, and Arweave. They work differently, but in a similar way. They kind of break up your content in tiny bits and spread it out through the network like a sort of a torrent, where all the users have fractions of your content, and when someone requests the content, the fractions are united to show you the content. So assuming that these networks continue to function as they are, and they are running on decentralized nodes mostly, and I can show you on this next slide that it's relatively simple to run your own IPFS node at home with a really cheap tiny computer, and I mean really cheap, 10 euro cheap, really cheap computer. And you can ensure that not only your content, if you choose to use IPFS to store it, but not only your content, but everyone else's content stays online. And this is important, this part of around the ethos of the blockchain or the decentralization, because everybody talks a lot about this, but very little actually live it. It's really not only important, but really easy to be a part of this, not just buying coins or buying digital artifacts or spending coins or whatever, but actually being a part of the network. And especially for us, digital artists or content creators or whatnot, especially for us, we should really start considering these sort of solutions, whether it's IPFS, Arweave, or whatever may come in the future. Recently, and I'm not addressing this on this presentation because I just came aware of this, there are these guys working on a solution that started for the blockchain but can work offline. And they're trying to do sort of digital certification that gets embedded in the file, in the original file. And everybody else can decode the info and not only have the image, but also the metadata. I know there are some, let's say, more complex ways of embedding data in your images. I'm not sure if you're aware of steganography, but it's a really cool and interesting technique that artists can use to embed digital watermarks inside their images. They stay written as part of the image code, and you can then decrypt that image and see the extra info, whatnot. And steganography is actually an old technique, but these guys are working on this new solution, and they're called Nina, N-I-N-A. They started at Nina token. So if you're interested in alternative ways of authenticating and keeping the info inside your file, you should all check these guys out, Nina token. I am not endorsing them because I hadn't made enough research. I just heard about them a week ago, and I was reading through their papers, and they seem pretty interesting. But you know, as with pretty much everything blockchain related, go with caution. Go with caution.
Rodolfo, did you say Mina token or
Nina, and
Nina? Okay.
Nina, nothing. INA, Nina.
Okay.
Yeah, I read about it, and it seems really interesting and promising. They were blockchain based, but now they're going offline. It seems more interesting, and you know, we can have more use cases for it for sure.
By the way, I need to remind you, you have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up. I'm wrapping up now. This is my last slide.
Yeah, I hate
so the perpetuity of your digital work may also depend on the file format it was written, and this is a really important reminder. We do not only depend on the existence of internet or computers or whatnot. We have to make sure, and honestly, I don't think we can ever make sure that we are working with formats that may be future-proof or compatible in 70 years, and they won't. At least historically, it has been shown that they won't. Andy Warhol did some really cool stuff in Amiga 500, and it was a hell of a problem to restore it and show it again these days. There's this Portuguese artist called Silvestre Pestany, was working with Spectrum computers back in 1980s. And now, unless you have a Spectrum computer, you can run it on an emulator, but it's not quite the same. It doesn't really look the same. So consider this, that's likely if your work becomes really important and needs to be preserved, it will likely have to deal with these sort of problems in the future. People will probably have to get old computers or old software to read your files now. So I can't really advise you on any particular form or format. I personally am a fan of GIFs and JPEGs. They've been around for a while, but I'm not sure if they'll last forever. And they are, you know, pretty much worthless for everything else than images or slightly moving images. But if you're working with video or 3D or whatnot, we might have these challenges in the future. Either way, it's really important to keep backup of your work. And I have this small note on the bottom. Unlike me, because I have lost a few dozens of my digital works a while back when I needed to format my computer because I was hacked and phished, and I was phished too. So yeah, and I didn't have a backup for everything. And fortunately, I have a lot of stuff on the IPFS and Arweave, and those I could get back. But other stuff that was mostly on my hard drive was gone. And we all know this. We all need to just remember, as we develop this routine of saving as once in a while, you got to get a hard drive, got to back up to that hard drive and hide that hard drive in the attic or so. Otherwise, that's one way to compromise your legacy, because maybe one day you'll be famous enough to have a curator digging up after your stuff, and they will have a hell of a trouble finding it. So take steps for your future. Take care of your legacy, and if you're uploading, start uploading to decentralized servers. Really start looking into it. That's one extra way of ensuring your work might be seen by future generations of people who use screens and internet. Who knows? So that's about it. This is what I had to share you. If you have any questions, feel free to hop in. I'll just stop this.
Great, Rodolfo. Actually, that's not the last thing that you said is just not applicable to like artists and artwork, but also like our personal lives. I think like we just assume that like our digital footprint on internet is permanent when you upload something, even to your drive or, you know, like Instagram. But I think like nothing is permanent on internet. Like we have actually seen this example of it, like people like lost a lot of writings on different social media platforms, and
you
know, like photos, videos of they uploaded in
I think a lot of us a lot of us still remember Tom from MySpace, but MySpace is gone, and all of that is gone. And so all that you shared, I shared, and everyone shared, all the bands, and that's gone. And it wasn't that far back. This
it was
you
just
know,
like 15 years ago or something.
So
actually, we will take the questions. Like, I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions in the after João session, and now we just continue with João's presentation.
Okay. Oops, sorry. I'm having some issues. Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, sorry. I will start here. So I think I'm going a leap into the past and trying to review some concepts regarding art, copy, and authorship. And I think this will probably will make some more confusion into our discussion, which can be nice. Copy is an old thing. I use this image from the Middle Ages of copyist monks. They were communicating. They were making before the print press. They were putting out. They were copying books and the Bible and stuff like that, and a small step into the future. And when I was in art school, I had like 3 years of painting. And one of the things that happened every year was we should have do a copy about an artist. About an artist, and the thing was to try to evolve and to practice borrowing their work and their techniques and to learn. And that really still is what you can find on academic grounds. You can see from the Louvre or from the National Gallery of Art or the Met, there is a copyist program where they let people go in and after hours for the museums and work on copies of their favorite painters. I think, for instance, in the Louvre, they give like 3 months for a copy. There are some protocols that they'll try to diverse and not being like a true copy. Like, for instance, the canvas should be 10% bigger or 10% smaller, and they should not be signed, for instance. And so there are lots of ways of copy, and you can find this village in China where 5,000 artists are copying different painters. This one, I choose this one, and I was really glad I found this one because it's one of my favorite painters, and it's amazing to think about 5,000 painters doing a copy of Ilya Repin, because I was imagining probably there's very good paintings here that differ a little, but go after the work of Repin. And this is somehow what happens in the art world. Some museums have paintings that are fake. including like this one in this Valencia Museum, 50 million euros Velázquez painting, which is a fake. And then the Independent makes this the big question: how many of the paintings in our public museums are fakes? And I think we'll never know. And so authorship is somehow lost in the process. And I was glad to hear Rodolfo speaking about the NFTs and blockchain because of this. And I'm going back to Paul Cézanne and to the idea that yes, it was in the museum and by copying that people learn to paint. But there's somehow a difference, and when what is to copy and what is to keep the authorship authentic. And I think this is a good example. So Van Gogh did a lot of copies. I don't think you can even call it copies, because he went to, in fact, most of this work, it was done in the mental institution where he was. So he was painting from prints, and what he was trying to achieve is it was to copy, not copy, the work of several good artists, but he was definitely developing his expression and his style using other compositions and learning from it. And so I think he was so good artist that he couldn't do like a copyist work. So he was in fact learning and developing his own style. I have another one I really love also. This is an engraving by Gustave Doré, which both are beautiful, but in fact Van Gogh tried to understand the composition and the theme, and he was developing his work. And also this one from Millet. So I really think this is amazing, because I never did this at art school. I really copied what I was trying to but I didn't really like the copying exercises. I usually would go for some pop art, which would be very simple and not go. But in fact, I do like to paint with oil and realistically, but it was not my kind of work. But for instance, in design, that's a different thing. Many of you probably would know, if there are designers in here. There's this concept of borrow design. So we can borrow some kind of graphic design from an artist, or for instance, I don't know if you remember some ages ago, some studio, L'Oreal studio ad that used suprematism in the ad. So that is a case of borrow design. I will proceed. And then there's this sentence from Oscar Wilde, which is: imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. So I was especially in my photographic work, for a certain time, I was happy with his flattery, because on social networks such as Instagram, you can find like lots of the same locations, the same style photographies, and I was really feeling that there were many people going to my locations. I'm not the owner of the locations, of course, but they were in fact somehow copying my style and my locations. And at a certain point, I decided that this was not correct. I really don't think it's a flattery. And I'll show you another example why I don't think this is a flattery. So you have this guy that was Chris Voss, that was an illustrator in the 70s, and he made science fiction illustration, and he made one for, I don't remember the name of the magazine, and he was like not very well paid. And then it appeared this eyebrow artist called Glenn Brown that made like a true copy of his work. And this is not like Roy Lichtenstein work, it's a little bit different, or Andy Orwell work, and sold at an auction by 5.7 million. So it's not because of the money, but I'll show you an example. This is, I was perhaps the first guy to shoot on this location. And this is all my kind of editing. If you go on my Instagram, you will understand what I mean. But in fact, this is 6 different authors, and I messed it up, so I couldn't even understand which one is mine. And this really started to be not a good thing for me, because not because of the authorship, but because when I was scrolling on my Instagram feed, I was doing like, whoa, this is my photo. And of course it was not. And so I really got a little fed up, and I start blocking and unfollowing many of these guys, which some of them are my friends and were my friends. And I really stopped thinking that copy is flattering, because I really felt shitty about it, and so I stopped. And it was, in fact, also there were 2 guys that pointed me to this direction, because it was like a Brazilian, very well-known Instagrammer that told me, yes, everybody knows that is your style and your location, but Instagram is like people go away and people are coming in, and many will look at their pictures and think it's their location, their editing style, and you lose your authorship in the middle. And there was another Instagrammer from Barcelona that that I knew. He was a little bit fed up with this guy that was doing exactly the same shots that he was. He is an architectural photographer. So the guy was going to the same places that he was and doing the same kind of shots. He was even doing likes to the people that were commenting on these friends' photographies. So everybody would go on his page and, okay, this is what I'm enjoying and stuff. And he told me that they were friends, and at a certain point he had to give up on him, and he unfollowed him. And that's what I felt about this. This was, at a certain point, this was so intense to me, because I was really, at this time, I was getting like major engagement, but I did stop doing this kind of photography, and I was even looking at Instagram and seeing other guys doing, and I still do one of these photos as like, I don't know, 10 days, and my last one is from a year ago or something, and that's, for me, that's it. And to finish, I would just like to show you, this is the original sentence that Oscar Wilde went, and it was 1 century before. So it was also some kind of copy of concept that Oscar Wilde was doing. And so I'm finished.
Wow. That was really good. I would say, really like give me some, like, ideas and thoughts on the art, like what is imitation, what's copying, and things like that. And I actually share an article that, like, I know it happens like in NFT world a lot, like stealing and like using the artist works. So before my question, like I have some questions, but we don't have time, so I'm just gonna give the floor to everyone. Don't be shy, just jump in. And if you have any questions to our speakers, we are here. You can write on chat or just raise your hand and jump in. Okay, then I can ask my question. Yeah.
We can just give some time for our participants to think through it.
Yeah, sure.
Meanwhile,
there was actually a question. I don't know if it was a question, but what happens if I'm in the same place and I think a similar one? Actually, it's a good question, but it's just I think it's something special about photography that, you know, like I think this question is to you, João.
Yes, yes, yeah. And that's a very pertinent question. The thing is that, for instance, one of the guys that I show you the photo usually would get out with me, and then at a certain point we could really understand that it was my team. I was doing that kind of photography, but I was friendly with him, and he started doing the same shots. He was with me. It was in the same place and sometimes at the same hour. But you have to go behind what a picture is and about what your authorial and concept work is, your work in 300 photos or in 400 photos. And so what I would ask him is that he would show me a different vision of that place and a different approach, even technically speaking, on photography. So that would be what I would prefer. So the thing is with photography and Instagram is that Instagram is ruining a lot of places exactly because of that. It's like everybody's going to the same places, taking the same shots, and since the beginning, I've always tried to, okay, I'm going, I don't know, a city in Europe now. I'm not really traveling in Europe at the moment to shoot because everything somehow is so similar. I've lost myself. Where I was. When I go to this place, I will try to capture that city or even that place in a different or new approach, and not like the old shots we have done from that place, for instance. In fact, I really, maybe from Porto there is a really well-known library which is called Lelo Library, that has the stairs that everybody knows. I went 2 times to that library. One, when I arrived to Porto, and it was like really decrepit place. It was a beautiful, romantic place, and it was all broken up like Porto. Porto, it was really a rotten city by the time, and it was charming, that rotten city we had. And the last time it was because it was this summer, and it was because I had here an Instagram friend from the United States, and he was going there like 2 hours before it opened, and I had the chance for the first time to shoot that library without people there. I never posted, and I will never post that because I have seen it so much. I would like to go back these 20 years and shoot the like I saw it the first time. This is a drama for every place I go. So I think did I have answered the question?
Yeah. Yeah, any other questions?
Maybe I can ask.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, Mehmet.
So the question is to João, I mean Bernardio. Sorry, I cannot pronounce it. Your
It's a hard
like
one.
first name.
It's a
It's
hard one.
okay. It's
Yeah,
very
it is
difficult.
super hard. So, my question was about any practical relationship between your photography business or like skills with your knowledge and information and background with the old paintings, because especially nowadays, I mean, if you compare with the like typical photographer, I mean, the old painters, like the classic ones, knows better to handle and play with the light. So there is lots of knowledge there in order to get to know the light better. So
Yeah.
in practice, do you ever like have a chance, or do you ever use that knowledge
Yes.
practically? Or I mean, I know that if like you have that background, and so once you look at the any place, you're shaping with the light because of your background. But in practice, how do you do that?
Oh, it's a wonderful question. Because most times that I'm taking a shot, I don't even think about photography as a close discipline, but in fact as a box where I'm putting all my knowledge regarding composition, lights, and everything I have done so far. So sometimes I have a master on illustration, and sometimes I look at my shots and I smile and I think, oh, this was exactly how I would do it if I could illustrate this so good as I'm taking a shot. So in fact, I do think it has a lot to do with the years of work, the years of studying, the years of practice. I think when you get older, sorry, but I'm getting really old. The more time you're getting older, the more you can understand what you're doing. Yeah, so and sometimes also not, and sometimes it's just, oh, it happens. No, but I think there's a major influences in everything I know, even from typography, design, illustration, everything.
Can I add a bit? Yeah, thank you. I didn't mention it in my introduction, but I also studied painting, so I totally relate to this question. And I think it's something, well, as in whatever skill you pick up, and if you practice it enough, it will permeate whatever you do. I mentioned that I was working with printing processes and doing self-published books and whatnot. And even today, on some of the digital work I make, I introduce moire patterns or half-tone patterns as part of a lexicon I developed when I was doing print. But now I'm doing digital and 3D modeling, but I also go back to there. It was pretty cool to see the quote by Cézanne, because Cézanne is actually my favorite painter of all the painters. And I will disagree with Mehmet, because I think there are a lot of good painters still to this day that can really understand the problems around light and volumes and whatnot. But it certainly helps as an artist, as a creator, to, you know, reach deep within yourself with what you really know, with the way you're really comfortable with looking at the world and turning that into something else. It's not just having a painting background. We all have a background. You know, we all have a background in something, and as an artist, I think we should exploit that, our lives, our experience. And João also said the truth. When you get older, things get more clear. You'll understand it sooner or later. So maybe you don't have to be old as João, but you know, experience. Sometimes it's not about age; it's mostly about experience. But experience comes with age, because it's developed throughout. Every week, every month, every year. Yeah, that's they kind of converge. But yeah, if you're a good artist, you will use all your skills in one work. That doesn't mean you have to use all your tricks, but you will use all your skills, all the knowledge you have about composition and shape and weight and velocity and all of that that we learn on painting or drawing or sculpture or whatever. So studying social sciences or philosophy, it doesn't matter. Those are all tools, and if at this point in life we are creatives, then yeah, let's get all that experience into what we're doing. That was it.
I think we have another question. Mitina, I think you were right raising hand just before this question.
Hi, yeah, Mitana. It's a difficult
Mitana,
one, so
I'm sorry.
it's fine. It's like from Mortal Kombat, Kitana, but it's like Mitana, whoever played Mortal Kombat. So my question was for João. It's not more a question, more like a thought that I had, and it was super interesting about the copyrights. What do you think about that, what you were saying for me about the locations and how everybody goes to the same location and do the same shot? I was thinking about art school because I also went to art school. When we were painting with models, we were a full room full of people doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
But still, we could all find a way to express ourselves. Do you think that now social media, because it's so mainstream, when you put something really good, people don't try to be creative, they just take it as it is? Like they see your photographs and they think, oh my God, this is amazing, I want to do the same thing. And they go to the same location and they do the same thing. Somehow that creativity nowadays is kind of in a way interrupted by that much information out there. Like, I don't know how to explain it better, but like, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I think that is what happens on social networks and on Instagram, and it is really different from my time on art school. As I think it is what you're saying. It is completely different because we were trying to make a point regarding our vision of the world, of society, and the way we see the world. And now I don't think that's important or relevant to many of the young people shooting, for instance, in photography. They are sometimes I just compare, I don't really know the name in English, but the way like you have like a World Cup with all the players and you buy some bags and you just put them on a book, yeah, you know?
Yeah.
So everybody's doing that. Everybody's like, oh, I have to go to, I don't know, Porto to shoot the bridge. Oh no, I have to go to this place to do that stuff. And in fact, there's a lot to see that people are not open to it. I can give you an example because I know he's not here, but I have a friend that is also a photographer and a very well-known Instagrammer in Portugal, and he just does like this outdoor landscape with him on the picture. And I was like 10 days on the road with him on a project, and I was like completely amazed by the way he worked. He's very young, he's like 25 years old, and he was like doing shots only 15 minutes in the morning when the sun rises, and 15 minutes when the sun sets, and everything was like the same. And the rest of the day he would be in his laptop on the car doing business. And it was like, for me, it was very far away from my view on photography. And I do feel a lot about this on the young guys. They are just like doing content and thinking about the way they are going to survive in their lives and paying their bills, and sometimes art or art disciplines are forgot, and it's lost in the way, I think. Yes.
It's just also reminds me that this discussion on like everything is turning into a content, like, you know, everything you produce is a somehow turning into a content. So it's a even like it's your art creation, and like then someone copies, or just like you tell a story, then it became a content, that's something to consume rather than, you know, to something to admire and like preserve and go on. Yes. Do we have any other questions or additions,
I
comments?
can ask if there's no. I mean, I have a couple of questions. I mean,
yeah, maybe like I don't know. I'm just wanna look at Atalay about the timing.
yeah, I guess there's other
I
people are trying to ask, so I'll go out. I already asked mine.
No, yeah, I mean we have non to Kozo.
You got it right.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for this amazing conversation, and kind of I feel like it's almost like you know, babies and like baby food, just kind of learning about what it actually means to be in this sort of digital space as a creator, and also like the things that are important to me, as you talked about like originality and like, you know, really honing in on your craft and like trying to find your voice in the work. So I think my question has more to do with like, how do you transition from just kind of posting for the content, right, of like having your Instagram, wanting to share your work, and then going into the spaces that you were talking about, oficinas, Mr. O, that you were talking about with like, you know, going into the blockchain stuff. I'm reading all of these words as you were saying.
Yeah.
How do you actually move from, like, how do we gradually
how do you get there? How do you get there? Well, first, I think, and this is really important, you should do research about blockchain, the blockchain technology and whatnot. It's not that complex, but it carries some risk. Then after you understood how this database works and how you can interact with it, there are a few platforms that will have curation. So you submit them your work, they'll look at it and say, we like you, we don't like you. And as simple as that, you'll get an email saying you're in or you're out. Nonetheless, there are other platforms, and also respectable and good and noteworthy, where they don't curate. So it's free platforms where everyone can join in and start sharing their work. So the steps to getting there are not that many. It's research, get a wallet, get some funds, and start publishing. And that's why you need some funds, because in most cases you will need to spend some dollars or some dozens of dollars, depending on the cases, to have your work published on the blockchain. And so that's how you start getting yourself out there on the blockchain. But that's the first step of many, I guess, because then no one will know you exist, right? No one knows we exist. Some people know I exist, but in a larger context, you're just someone on the internet. So for me, my strategy was to develop bonds with people I relate to, whether artists or collectors. Back in 2018, things were much different. Everything was much cooler, much more relaxed, and people could approach each other on Twitter or Telegram, and actually it wasn't a scam. It was actually conversations. But even so, that's how I went. I start, talking to people I enjoy the work or whatever. I feel some sort of affinity with them, and I start talking to them. And then we start doing stuff together. We start supporting each other. At first, that's what we did. We were buying each other's work. There were no collectors. There were no NFT collectors. And as incredible as this may sound in 2023, then some collectors came. and then you start selling to some collect. But that's, you know, I think, because there are many ways to get noticed on the internet, but unless they're organic, unless they're real, you know, for me there's no point. I have like 5,000 followers. I have the money to have 500,000 followers, you know, I could buy them, but I have 5,000 real people that actually kind of interested in seeing what I'm sharing. Those 5,000 are enough, because you can't have an expectation as an NFT artist or whatever artist type you are of pleasing everyone and finding 200 collectors. If you find 2-3 significant collectors, and by significant I mean not the ones that spend a lot of money on your work, but they also spend their time trying to understand your work, you know, meaningful, the guys who get it, these guys or these girls, whatever, they really looked at your stuff and they said, wow, you know, if you manage to get a couple of these, well, you made it, man. In my opinion, you know, you made it. Because I think we all need money. I was mentioning this earlier, and it's true, and a lot of people I know, and a lot of people in the world I am aware, they
Did we lose you, or is it just me?
No, I think we
lost them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just automatically muted you. You're about to spit some.
No. Maybe it's something about the headphones or something. No?
Yeah, because you were muted, but
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's something on my microphone. So where did you lost me?
Oh, you are saying a lot.
I was saying a lot. Well, I was talking about meaningful connection. That's the only way to grow as a person, as an artist, as a human being. You know, this is not a secret. There's a lot of greed in the NFT world. There's a lot of desire to make money, but artists should focus on making good art, the best they can, you know, then let others decide if they like it or don't, whatever, it doesn't matter. But to, you know, start thinking about it, that's halfway to get there, because it's not that different. All of the sudden, maybe you'll be more active on Twitter, and that's a different social media if you're not using it already. But then it's the same, you're just posting content on places, and some people will appreciate it, some people won't, some people will just not even know you exist, and it's pretty okay. That's the beauty of it, that we can all be a part of it, you know. I don't see it as like, oh my God, there's this ocean of artists, now it's my competition, you know. I feel actually very, very glad to have this notion. There are thousands of artists from all over the world, and I've known people from all the reaches of the world, all artists in places I wouldn't even imagine, you know, because I know conditions there are really hard, and they're in the middle of wars and whatnot, and still I met these guys, they're still doing the best they can as artists, you know. And by doing that, I noticed them, other people noticed them, we connected, you know. This is for me what matters most. Try to do some research, and that try to do some connections. Start checking other artists' profiles and see the ones you really enjoy, you know. Hit them up in the messages, who knows.
Yeah, I've started unfollowing everybody on my Instagram, because I'm like, I'm tired of taking people's everything. Like, I need to see clearly.
Twitter is not the best social media, and certainly not with Elon gone crazy recently.
Yes.
But if you're into digital art and NFTs, everyone's pretty much there, and that's one nice place, so you can feel the vibe, see what people are saying, what they're doing, you know.
Dope. Thank you. And I think
see you there.
you wanted to say something?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not into NFTs like Rodolfo, but I have a clear view about many people on Instagram that went to NFTs, and I will give you a not so good or romantic approach as Rodolfo, which I like very much the approach. So what happened is that what I see is that the visibility that they have got on Instagram makes a point when you go to NFTs, and also the Twitter thing that Rodolfo was talking about. I think 3 years ago, there was like a big flow of people going out of Instagram to Twitter. And because there's some kind of gatekeeping regarding NFTs and the markets of NFTs, and so everybody was there and everybody was like, oh, NFTs saved my life, and oh, I love NFTs and stuff like that.
So true.
And it was really
NFT saved my life.
yeah, and my work, and we are all a community, and many of them were really doing a lot of money. At a certain point, it was like pornographic also.
A lot of money and really saying a lot of bullshit. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it was really big, and they were like, oh, but we are a community, and we are. So this is the ugly part and the greedy part that Rodolfo was also talking about. And that was the time that I decided that really I'm too old to this shit, and I'm not getting into this train. So I never did an NFT.
Yeah. Guys, that's I mean, I remember those times. That's like it really thin line between community and a Ponzi scheme sometimes in that sense. But I love that time, like the community sense and everything. Actually, we can go on like till the morning because like I think it's really came to that like that part of the conversation that like we are talking about like the experiences that we have and like what we learn on those, but we have to interrupt. Atalay warned me on this, but it was so inspiring for me, and it has been I've been like talking with NFT artists and the artists on this subject, but it has been a while. Now it's just like talking to you guys, like it was so again inspiring. That's so thank you so much, and thank you everyone for like their attention. It's late here in Turkey, especially for our Turkish fellows. So back to you, Atalay. I think you have some words before we close.
Can I interrupt before Atalay just to say super quick notes? I just posted on our chat also the recording of our session in Porto, where Rodolfo from Officiners TK and Bernardino also shared a little bit on their digital art work and digital tools and their perspectives on the use of that. So it's another perspective on this talk, and you can check on, of course, their social network links. I will also post these links on our Slack channel, so you can check it later and follow their work as well. And yeah, Atalay, are you there?
Yes, I've always been here. So maybe I can also remind the guest Airtable, guest speaker Airtable, where the participants could find all the details about the guest speakers. So I can refer it back. It can be found in our Slack channel. If you haven't joined yet, it is a huge shame. Again, thank you all so much, João and Rodolfo, for being with us from the very beginning and for being with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Yes.
Guys, and thank you, Utku, so much for a great moderation. We are so happy to have you tonight with us as well. And I've already shared all details about Utku and Marques's on our Slack channel. Go check them out. Thanks
By
once
the
again.
way, I mean, it's not about Deepak or Marques's, but if you guys really interested on like decentralization and everything, it's a great opportunity. In the second week of November, the whole Ethereum community is going to be in Istanbul for Dev Connect. So like, yeah, like Rodolfo talked about like
is it DevCon in Istanbul
not
now?
DevCon, it's
okay.
Dev Connect.
Okay.
It's DevCon and Dev Connect. So it's just like everything we talk about, like the creators of these technologies, everything is like they do all these like events here happening here. So if you can contact with Marques's, if you are interested with any of them, it's not like super technical and not really artist NFT side, but like all the technologies. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just so excited about this. It's happening in Istanbul, so I just want to say a few words.
No worries. I also shared the details of the events, so I'm sure the participants who are enthusiastic about this will go and search more about it. There's one more thing I always forget, but this time I'm never gonna. I'm not forgetting that this project is co-founded by European Union.
It still was in time. It still was in time.
Yes, but there's so many information that I have to mention it every sentence that this is always forget.
Yeah, but it's important. We have also to thank European Union to think that these matters are important for creatives and that they can also fund this kind of programs where we all can learn from each other and be inspired by each other. So, yeah.
Thank you, Atalay.
You.
I'm hoping to see you all again, once again on Saturday's panel discussion. There's a little tiny adjustments are happening for that discussion. I'll let you know about the